Welcome to the Business Leader Spotlight. The Business Leader Spotlight is bringing attention to those in our community making a difference in business. It is also an opportunity to identify the skills they have learned and applied to get where they are. And now, let us go into this week's interview.
Thank you for joining us this week on the Business Leader Spotlight. We have with us Jay Abbasi. Jay, how are you doing today?
I'm doing really well, Mike. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. Thanks again for joining us. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing right now and what you've been up to?
Sure. So I am currently in the process of developing an online program that will be available to individuals and companies who are in need of some support when it comes to burnout or uncertainty, stress. A lot of us are experiencing that in today's world.
Yes.
And so I'm taking all the understanding that I've developed and my own experience with mindfulness and offering it in an online program that I think speaks to the professional work environment specifically. And I'm also doing some one-on-one coaching with individuals. So those are the two big things I'm working on outside of watching Hotel Transylvania 2 with my little girl in the evening.
Nice. Just for everybody, Jay and I did not coordinate what we were going to wear today. It was just one of those happened occurrences where we both have blue shirts on.
We just think alike, Mike. That's all.
Exactly.
Right.
So with Hotel Transylvania 2 with your daughter, is there a favorite scene that you have in the movie?
Yes, there's a part where he's making fun of his son-in-law, and his son-in-law is from California, and so he keeps saying he uses his voice and imitates him, and keeps saying the word "dude man." So he's like, "Dude man, I didn't know, dude man, dude man." So it's like a vampire voice trying to make fun of someone from California, and it's funny if you watch it. I don't think I'm doing it justice.
I think it's always great when parents watch a children's movie because we have a whole different perspective on it than children do, and little things like that with, trying to reenact it or even share some of the insights that we see. It never comes across as the way we think it does in our head, but it's still fun to do because my children are a little bit older, so I don't get to watch too many of those movies, but I still end up watching them somehow. I don't know if that's an indictment on myself or my wife, but that point aside.
Right. No, I mean, there are some funny parts. Like there's a part where the son says to the father-in-law, go get Bluetooth. Like we should get Bluetooth. And so since it's a monster movie, there's actually a blue tooth that appears on the screen, and that's a monster. So I get that joke. My daughter doesn't seem to get it, though.
Right.
But I thought it was funny. So I like how they entertain the adults who watch the movie as well.
Yes, that is good. They do keep adults entertained or engaged in the process. So it's not like, okay, I've got to sit here for this hour and 15, 20, 30 minutes and whatever it is and just go through, that very sophomoric humor for that period of time. So it is good how they do that. So
exactly.
Before you got into coaching and working for yourself, you were in corporate America, but you had, in my research on you made some transitions, some changes, you had some personal things go on in your life and you wanted to make some personal changes. Do you mind sharing a little bit about what happened and how you made those changes?
Yeah, sure. So I was working for Tesla for a number of years, and I loved working at Tesla. It was an incredible experience having to just think on your feet and to be part of such an important mission. It was awesome. It was great. And I guess my transition out of Tesla was something I wanted to do for a long time now, which was partly due to I wanted to do something for myself, start my own business. And I mean, if I were to go back as to what was really the driving force, it was years prior when I experienced a loss and when my father passed away, and he passed away suddenly. It wasn't like he was sick or anything. He just passed away suddenly. And when you deal with that, if anyone, experiences that, they know for one, obviously it's very hard, the grief and managing through that emotion. But it also, mortality hits you in the face, I really don't know if tomorrow is going to be here, if I'm going to be here tomorrow. I don't know what's going to happen. So why waste any more time? And that's been on my mind since.
Right.
And while it led me down to corporate America and I worked at these different roles and I found so much success at Tesla, there was always that in the back of my mind. This is just setting me up to do something that I love and to take a chance on myself and start a company that I believe in. And while it didn't happen instantly after my father passed away, it took me some years. I'm finally in that place now where I'm giving to the world what I think I'm here to give.
Right. Wow. That's impactful, where we've, everybody's had some kind of occurrence in their life that made them, I think of Robert Frost's poem, the road less traveled, and you come to that point of decision. What do? Do you go down the road that everybody else is traveling and kind of stick with the crowds, or do you take that time and say, you know what? Here's what I'm here to do. This is on my heart, and I'm going to push down this road. Even though it's a little bit more challenging, it's not paved. I've got to deal with all of the weeds and everything that's growing on the road, but it's something that's in my heart to do, and I want to push to do that. And that speaks to, your character and what you're trying to accomplish and help people with. Now, you bring up Tesla and working there. You worked there for about 4 years, and seemed like you had a really great career, starting on basically at a ground level and then moving up to a program manager. Elon Musk recently being announced the third richest person in the world. Some people would be like, why would you want to leave an organization like Tesla? You've hit it. Can you just share with us how you made that transition from entry level to program manager, and then just some of the corporate kind of culture pieces that you learned from Tesla as well, if you don't mind?
Sure. And so I'd say, so I found mindfulness back in 2014.
Okay.
And I'm bringing this up because it has a lot to do with what my effectiveness and the growth that I saw at Tesla. What I learned in this practice of mindfulness was how to be self-observant. In other words, think of it like this. It's like we have our own feedback loop that we can tap into if we are able to look at ourselves objectively and do so with compassion, where we're not judging ourselves. And that skill developed in me so much so that when I was at Tesla, I was constantly able to see where I needed to improve, where I was falling short, and not getting caught up in the fast-paced, ever-changing environment that was Tesla. Because if you get too caught up in that, you're less effective.
Right.
Your emotions get drained. It doesn't mean that you ignore them. That's not what I'm saying. So mindfulness is the opposite of that. It's you relate to it better. And I found ways to relate to the challenges more effectively by creating or tapping into what I call the space. And the space is the space between stimulus and response. It's a very famous Viktor Frankl quote. I refer to it all the time. And he talks about how in that space, we have our power to choose our response. And when you have that power at a place like Tesla, you're able to be incredibly effective. Where everybody else is reacting, you can respond. And in corporate America, I'll get to your, that was the second part of your question, Mike, right? What advice could I give, and what was effective for me? It was being able to respond rather than react. Mm-hmm. And at any job, if you are able to not get caught into your reactivity, and you could be more proactive and be more in a space of stillness to make decisions, you will be more effective. You'll get more results. And the byproduct will be you'll be acknowledged and be able to move up within your corporation.
Oh, that is there's a lot of meat just in that statement that you had right there. What you were talking about with that Viktor Frankl quote, being in that space, it reminds me of a concept in, I want to say it's in quantum physics, where it's basically being in superposition above a situation, where you can have that moment where you step back and see all of the different pieces going on around you. And you can make that decision based on, okay, if I go down this road, I can see this happening. But if I go down this road, it's this, and this. And it allows you to basically, it's almost as you said, you stepping into that space, but not in the moment of space of, oh, I have to do something, but in the moment, I have to think something rather than just, okay, my hands start thinking through the process and understanding, okay, what's going on? Yes, all this activity is happening, but how do I respond appropriately to affect the proper change during the time? Not just, all the water's rushing that way, so I just kind of flow with it. No, I actually have to turn and go upstream slightly, or whatever the case may be in the situation. So there's a lot there, and being there and having that time with Tesla. How would you describe your time in terms of developing your ability to stay mindful and to be able to grow in that development of understanding, okay, how do I operate from this position of space?
Yeah. I think Tesla afforded me many opportunities to practice. Let me put it that way. And I mean that in the most positive way. I loved working there. But in those situations that arise, you see that as an opportunity, right?
Right.
I'll give you some examples, where I was in a meeting with the head of inside sales discussing plans for how we were going to train reps who were in the field to transfer the customers to the inside sales team, right? Like that was what we were talking through, what the training would look like and so on. And then after the meeting, my manager came in. He was the head of all training for North America. And we were discussing, and then all of a sudden we saw on the blog post on Tesla.com and a tweet that said that all the stores for Tesla were going to be shut down. They were closing all the stores. So that's how we found out.
Wow.
I know, right? And I'm not to criticize. It's just the moving nature of Tesla was so fast. Anyone who worked there knows that that's how we all found out.
Right.
And so we had to, again, respond rather than react. We didn't freak out, right? We didn't lose our minds. We had to instead say, okay, here's the situation. Let's take a step back and let's think through how we're going to approach this going forward. And I'd say, in other words, what mindfulness did for me was, since I had a continuous practice where I was meditating every morning, and I still do, and I studied mindfulness, I saw this as like a weight on the ground, Mike, for me to lift up and do a bicep curl.
Okay.
Like, here's the chance, right? Here it is. Here's the exercise. Let's do it. And I would say that if it weren't for those opportunities, I wouldn't have been able to strengthen that muscle and be able to effectively practice mindfulness and also be able to teach it to others.
Okay, so that seems like you've been able to use Tesla as a really good training ground, I'll say, to be able to take it and say, okay, I've got this new skill set, this new way of living my life and new way of operating, and saying, okay, well, how do I put this into practice on a regular basis? Not just oh yeah, that's a really nice thing to say and talk about, but no, this is how I actually went through and did it. Having the opportunity to say, okay, here, we want to do this. We want to go from training, transitioning our clients from outside sales to inside sales. Okay, how are we going to do that? Okay, we'll have time to kind of come up, brainstorm some ideas and see what sticks, rather than, okay, well, hey, all of our stores are closing, so we've got to make this happen immediately. And it seems like you've been practicing this long enough to understand. And sometimes, it sounds like it was a trial by fire, so to speak, where you're just like, okay, well, how do we deal with this right now? Okay, take that step back, kind of pause and think through, okay, what is it that I need to do? Okay, I may never have done a 50-pound curl with my arms before, but hey, today's a good day to start. And it seems like that's what you were able to do.
Yeah, and what the practice helps us to do is look at things objectively. The problem, the reason we get so stressed is because we add meaning to things. If you really think about it, if I were to just look at that situation and say, okay, this was the plan before, right? The integration of training the outside reps to then transfer things to the inside reps. When we heard the news, All it is okay, the situation has changed.
Right.
If you can look at that objectively, there's no need for stress and no need for anxiety and no need for worry. Now, those things naturally arise. We're human beings. I'm not saying we turn into robots, but the practice allows us to kind of separate from the emotion and say, okay, well, here's the situation. Let's look at this objectively. Let's not add any meaning. Let's not add any subjectivity to this. What can we do now? What steps can we take? What are our options?
Right. Wow. That those that way of thinking is really helpful for people during this time, because a lot of people's options have been kind of limited. So it seems like from your time at Tesla, in 2019, you started your own consulting coaching business, and you talked about previously that with your father unexpectedly passing away and some other decisions that you made in your life, you decided to go out to your own business. But I guess what made you decide to go down this specific route? What, kind of some of the pieces that helped you go down this road? It seems like mindfulness was something that you started to pick up and learn along the way, but kind of how did the two pieces come together for you?
So when I left Tesla 2019, I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I'd love to tell you I had it all figured out, Mike. I didn't. I had to kind of say, okay, am I going to start a business? Am I going to take another job? And I went on all these interviews, Mike, and my gut kept telling me, not this, meeting with CEOs in New York City and, having lunch with them. It was wonderful, great people. It's just my gut told me this is not the way. See through a business. Now, what I ended up doing was kind of just surrendering, right? I surrendered. I said, all right, allow things to come to me. I'm not going to try to reach out and do all these things. Let me just allow things to happen. And then when in that allowing, opportunities came up in sales consulting. So I was actually initially doing that. I was doing sales consulting, and that was wonderful. Great experience. I learned a lot and very rewarding overall. But it wasn't until the beginning of 2020 that I decided to make a shift in my consulting and coaching business away from sales and specifically renewable energy, which is what I was doing a lot at Tesla, to mindfulness. And the real why behind that was because I've known for a long time that this is why I'm here.
Right.
This is what I'm here to do. I've known for a long time that in my own self-assessment, I have certain strengths, and my strengths include taking things that are quite complex and making them simple, and trying to even make that into the most simplest terms, right? That's ultimately what I do. And I did that at Tesla a lot. So if I could do that, if I had that skill set of taking something that's complex and making it simple, what would I want to teach? Of anything I could teach? Well, I'd want to teach the thing that has had the greatest impact on me positively. I'd want to teach something that will benefit the most people and add the most value in a world that is full of stress, anxiety. I mean, right now, we have stats that are going to blow your mind. Over 80% of people say that they are stressed from their work. Over 80%, 87% of people say they are disengaged at work. Right. So that's a problem. Right. And I think that it's a solvable problem. And the solution is mindfulness and bringing that into the workplace. So that's the real, knowing that, seeing what it was like at Tesla and knowing the type of skill set I have, it was an obvious pivot for me earlier this year. And that's my real why behind matching mindfulness with coaching and consulting.
Wow. Okay. So you didn't necessarily go out, you leave Tesla in 2019 and say, oh yeah, I'm going to start this business. It was more, okay, well, left Tesla and you started kind of dabbling to see exactly what direction you wanted to go in.
Yeah, I'd love to tell you it was like a perfect story where I had it all figured out and, people came down and, it was just like this, like this fairy tale Disney movie. It wasn't. It was a lot of figuring it out along the way.
Oh, yeah. Kind of like changing the tire while the car is still moving type of thing.
Exactly.
Okay. So, but with that, there, you saw that the need, well, not the need, but you saw how you your skill set, what was most helpful for you, what transitioned and transformed your life was mindfulness, and being able to take that and make it in a palatable manner. I think now, with people working more and more from home and doing calls like this on a regular basis, I would venture to say the numbers of people being stressed out at work would be even higher, just based on that. Do you know of if the percentages have increased since people have been more in this kind of work from home type of situation, or restricted kind of time?
I don't have any of the data, Mike, but 80% was high as it is.
Right.
So you can't get much higher than 80%, So I remember seeing a stat that said before even COVID that by 2030, most doctor's visits will be due to mental illness, which was shocking. That the biggest diagnosis, the largest in terms of what people are going to the doctor for, is going to be mental health more than physical health by 2030. That was anticipated. And I would only think that COVID has accelerated that, unfortunately. But here's the thing about COVID, and I know you didn't ask me this specifically, but you made me think of it, which was COVID just highlighted something that we all already know, which is everything is uncertain. We really don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Sure, a pandemic was something we could have never guessed and predicted, and dealing with the pandemic is hard. I'm not suggesting it isn't, but when people say, oh, like times are so uncertain right now, I get that. I have compassion for that, but times are always uncertain. It's just COVID's highlighting it. That's all. So what we all need to do is not figure out how to deal with the uncertainty of COVID right now. We all need to figure out how to manage through any uncertainty, because you never know what tomorrow is going to bring. And you want to be able to maintain that sense of stillness, that sense of objectivity, that sense of or that skill of resilience, regardless of the situation, whether we're in a pandemic or not.
Yeah, that is so true, because it makes me think back to an old teaching. Don't worry about tomorrow. Let tomorrow worry about itself. Focus on right now. That's the one thing you have in your power. Or another one was, yesterday's in the tomb, tomorrow's in the womb. The only thing you have is the present, and deal with that. All of those kind of different thoughts ring true, or ring through everything that you're saying, is that, being in the moment, so to speak, is the piece that we need to be focused on. Not adding meaning to the situation, but staying, okay, what is it here? What is it right now? What is it that I need to do? And to move forward. So it brings me to a phrase that I found that you have. It's mindfulness is not for yogis, and let me tell you why. So how did you come up with that, or how did that little phrase begin for you?
Yeah. So it's mindfulness is not just for yogis. Let me tell you. Yeah. And I cannot take credit for it. It was my girlfriend who came up with it. Mm-hmm. So shout out to her for coming up with the idea. And it was when she said it to me that one time, I remember this was earlier in 2020, I thought to myself, well, it does really speak to what I'm trying to share, which is this. There's a lot of stigma behind, I don't know if stigma is the right word. There's a lot of misconception behind mindfulness. And it's this thought that, you got to be wearing orange robes in a cave and shave your head and you're floating near a cloud or something. And none of that, that's just not true. People have been practicing mindfulness for hundreds and hundreds of years. We have science that backs the benefits of mindfulness. We have leaders all over the world, ones that are incredibly popular and leaders who have been very effective in what they've done, who've been practicing mindfulness. People like Michael Jordan, Phil Jackson, Clint Eastwood, Bill Gates, Oprah, Jennifer Lopez. So the list goes on and on. People who said mindfulness is what transformed them and made them into better and more effective people. So it's not just for yogis. That's the real reason why I use that tagline quite a bit, because it's something that can be adopted for everybody, and it will improve everybody's life, regardless of your background, regardless of how you grew up, where you live, what type of situation you are in. It will improve you and help you to, as you were just describing, be in the now, be present, and be able to accept things for what they are and be content with the situation, and then take action according to what's the best thing to do, not just because your emotions are driving you to do it.
Okay. Yeah, that seems, and forgive me for quoting you on that one, but it does make sense that there is this mindset, or you know, you know, I guess convoluted or misunderstanding about how mindfulness can apply to everyone. It's not just about, like you said, someone who's in the orange robe and that meditates multiple hours a day. While those things are good, but being able to make it practical for the everyday person is what I'm hearing you say, is that this mindfulness thing is available to everyone and available for everyone. It's just, okay, crossing that bridge of, hey, this is available to you, but how does a normal everyday person get across that bridge? Because I think you may agree with this, you may not, but I think that's the bridge that most people have to cross, is how do I get there? Because, well, all of this is going on. What am I going to do? How can I be mindful during, this hectic time?
Yeah. It's a fair assessment. You're absolutely right. There are so many people who know that it's helpful, yet don't know how to do it, or don't think they have the time to do it, or they're confused by it. And I encounter people like this all the time. And I break this down into 4 simple steps of what it takes to be more mindful. And what I use the term to unlearn our programming, because that's ultimately what mindfulness helps us do, is to unlearn the way in which we react, to unlearn the way in which we fall into these thought spirals, right? And the first step is, you just need to be willing. Mm-hmm. You need to be willing. You have to have the willingness to look at yourself and make a commitment to introspection. And that takes courage. That's not an easy thing to do. Some people can't get through that first step.
Right.
It's understandable. I get that. It's dark in there sometimes to look at yourself. And I have a lot of compassion for that. But if they can get through that first step, if they're willing to go within, the second step is, well, now you have to have an intention each day. So you have to, in other words, wake up every day saying to yourself, I am going to be mindful today. I'm going to, it has to be a committed adjustment. And that doesn't take time. It's just a mental shift. None of this takes time yet. We're going to talk about some practices in a bit, but those 2 things don't take time. A willingness and intent are not time consuming. It's just a shift in your mindset. Then third, there needs to be, in my opinion, some sort of formal practice. Now, people hear that and they go, what an hour a day? I got to sit and meditate? No. I would say start with 1 minute. Everyone can make time for 1 minute, right? And then you build it. Just like, I was using the gym analogy a moment ago, right? Lifting weights. No one goes to the gym for the first time and tries to lift up 500 pounds. It's going to hurt, and you're not going to go back to the gym, right? So don't try to sit for an hour and meditate the first time. Go for 1 minute, 2 minutes, and then build it to 5 minutes, and then develop a practice where every day, just like you're brushing your teeth, just like you shower, you give yourself time to meditate, do yoga, something that is a practice of mindfulness that's formal. And then the 4th step is bring it into your day-to-day through informal practices. And there are so many out there. We don't have time to cover all of them, but some examples would be, when you eat your lunch, eat your lunch mindfully. Be aware of the sensations. Be present when you're eating your lunch. It could be when you go out for a walk mindfully in nature for 5 minutes a day. Many of us are working from home. We can take 5 minutes to maybe go out for a quick walk and then come back. And you can even use breathing techniques throughout the day. It doesn't take a lot of time to bring yourself back to the present moment. So those are 4 steps that I outline, and helping people to bridge what you were just describing before, of that motivation to want to be more mindful and to actually do it.
Wow. Yeah, you made it very simple. You made it, small, simple steps for people to be able to go from, okay, well, yeah, that sounds great, but here's this very practical things to be able to do. And I like how you identified if you want to get into that meditation routine or some sort of a mindful routine. You said make it for 1 minute. Don't try to bite off. Oh yeah, start out with 20 minutes, and you need to be there and focused and calm for that, because most people have never had to deal with that 20 minutes of alone time with their own thoughts. It reminds me of a commercial I've seen on television. I think it's for some app, and where they say, be still for 30 seconds or 15 seconds, whatever it is. And you do it, and you just think about how fast it goes. But when you think about, okay, well, can I get my mind to stop racing for that much time? And how hard it is sometimes, because you can get into it for, a good 10 seconds, and then your mind jumps off another way and you're down a whole separate road of thinking. And, you're like, oh yeah, I got to make sure I take something out for dinner, and so-and-so's got to give me this. And, you're all worked up within a matter of moments just because of one thought.
That's the natural tendency of the mind. The mind is always trying to, and it's all survival. If you break it down, it's trying to think through, what do I have to do next? It's planning, it's thinking about the future, or it's ruminating about or dwelling about the past, something that happened. And most of our thought process is unfortunately negative. So some research has been done on this, and 80% of thoughts are negative thoughts. That's a huge number. So that means for every time you have a positive thought, you have 4 negative ones,
right?
Which is crazy, right? And so the natural tendency of them, and the reason they're negative is because it's survival. You're thinking through what are the potential worst case scenarios, so you protect yourself and you ensure your own survival. Yet in today's world, we're not, it's not like how it was thousands of years ago with our ancestors, where there are tigers around and we have to protect ourselves from being mauled by tigers,
Right.
So we have to retrain our minds away from those natural tendencies, so that we aren't caught up in those thoughts the way you were describing. And instead, we can be in the now, we can be more content, and just live better lives, live more fulfilled lives.
Right. You talk about fulfillment, and I guess this mindful practice allows you to work in being more fulfilled at work and in life in general. Do you mind sharing with us, maybe since you do have a daughter, your favorite destination, favorite vacation destination, or possibly your favorite hobbies with her?
With her?
Yes.
Oh, let's see. We went to Colorado Springs. That was beautiful.
Okay.
And we went in the summertime a few years back. I loved it there. There was hiking, and just the mountains I remember driving in the highway, almost crashing just because I couldn't stop looking out the window. It was that beautiful. I'm in New Jersey, so we have some mountains, but nothing like that, Right. So her and I had a great time there. And honestly, she loves the beach. She loves the water. Mm-hmm. So anytime I can take her down to the shore, the Jersey Shore is not far from me. That's another great spot. And in terms of hobbies to do with her, I go with whatever she wants to do. If it's hide and go seek, sometimes it's hide and go seek, and she's gotten pretty good. Right. She's got some good spots. Sometimes I can't find her, and I'm never gonna win because it's like there isn't too many spots for an adult in the house, so right. She always finds me. So I lose most of the time in hide and go seek. And just, we watch a lot of movies. We have a lot of time together. I make sure, let me put it this way. What's the point of life if you're not going to spend that quality time with your loved ones? I don't sacrifice that for anything, Mike. I won't. Right. I don't care what the business is asking for. I don't care what other opportunities are out there. I make sure to give my daughter that quality time. Right. And I won't ever sacrifice that.
That's good to hear, because a lot of times there is always that challenge with starting your own business. It's not like working a 9 to 5. You're like, oh yeah, you can make your own hours. Usually when you make your own hours in your own business, it's not just 9 to 5. It's, 6 to 8 to 9, depending upon, where requests come from, requirements, obligations, all those different types of things. So that can be a real challenge, and I can see that it can impact your home life and your family time. But it sounds like you've set up those boundaries where, no, my work is going to be my work, but I'm not going to let it impede on that time that I cannot get back with my daughter and be able to share those moments with her.
Exactly right, my friend. Exactly right. I mean, I don't have a normal Monday through Friday. I usually work on a Saturday. I usually work some on a Sunday too. It's just, like you said, boundaries. It's just blocks. There are blocks of time where I'm working, and there are blocks of time where I'm not. There are times when this device that's in my pocket all the time I have on, and there are times where it is far away from me.
Right.
We need to set those rules, because otherwise we are constantly in a state of reactivity to everything that's happening in our lives. And I don't want anyone else to be the author of my life. It's me. I'm writing the book.
Right. No, that's great, where you can define, okay, here's how my life is going to operate, and here's how my business is going to operate, and I will not let one take from the other, so to speak, where it's like, okay, well, the business needs to take a two or 3 hours over here, but that, you can never from your life go back to your business and say, hey, I need those 2 hours back. Can you give me those 2 hours back? It's not like money. Well, I lent you, $5,000. Can I get that money back now? I need it again. There's not that kind of an exchange with time. It's one of those things where it's that commodity where you spend it, and you get to determine, okay, how do I spend it from here? And making sure you make up that decision where it's like, no, here's how it's going to be spent. And that's it. So that's good to hear that you've got that.
It's the only resource that you can never get back.
Right. Definitely. Can you share with us some of the service offerings that you provide, and how people can get in contact you to get more information if they're interested in following up with you?
Sure. So the services I provide are online training programs for individuals and organizations on trying to, or who are interested in learning how to implement mindfulness in their lives to reduce stress, or manage stress is maybe a better way to describe it, overcome adversity, and to be resilient. Mm-hmm. And the online programs are all online, doesn't require any in-person type of training. Of course, that's always an option for organizations if they want it, but with everything going on, it's not really so much something that others want to do. As well as I offer one-on-one coaching. Mm-hmm. And all of this can be found on my website, and that's at jayabbasi.me. And of course, in social media, the platform I use is LinkedIn. That's how you and I met, Mike. Yes. And I love LinkedIn. I think it's an incredible community of positive and encouraging people. So you could always connect with me or follow me on LinkedIn as well, as another way to reach out. And please feel free to reach out. I'm always open to exchanging ideas and having conversations about how mindfulness can impact you, and how I can be of support.
Oh, thank you. I do appreciate it. Again, Jay, thank you for your time and sharing with us some of your story and some of the different pieces of your life and how you got to the point that you did. I think there was a lot of great nuggets of information you shared with the audience. So again, thank you for your time. That's all we have this week on the show. So again, we'll say thank you to Jay for joining us, and everyone have a great week.
Thank you so much, Mike. Take care, everyone.
All right. Thank you for watching this week's video. I hope you were able to find one thing you can begin to apply to your life today. I would appreciate it if you would like, comment, and subscribe. Also, if you have any feedback, leave it in the comments below. Let us know if you know of any great guests to be on the spotlight. I look forward to your questions and your comments. Thanks again for watching.